We're going to jump right into his session. Evihn's claim to fame is he ran his first marathon at the age of 14. Congratulations.
Thanks, Simon. And that's actually the last marathon I ran. First and last there. Maybe I'll do it again at some point. We'll see. But anyways, to start off here, for those that weren't at the spring session here, my past few roles, it's been my job basically to serve as the head of designing overall customer journeys, working with business units across organizations. And so first off, before I get into this, by show of hands, who here did some form of preparation for this conference? By show of hands. Of course, great. And so to take that a step further, who here did some sort of, or whose preparation involved some sort of data, kind of the gathering of data, putting together, kind of the right questions around it? Yeah, okay, exactly. And that's kind of part of the process, right? So one of my favorite quotes is, luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And of course, putting together data is really, the preparation part of things. But then as far as creating the right opportunities, it's really both, right? Because you're also looking for the right opportunities to take advantage of that data that you've gathered and put together. And really, for example, you're here at this conference, right, not at another conference. You chose this particular opportunity to take advantage of, whatever preparation you did beforehand. So I think I've heard a few people talk about this today, but there's an exponential amount of data that's being captured globally. It's growing every year. You can see from the graph there. Every single year the rate increases. 2025, you can see the forecast there is already looking like that trend is set to continue. We've got, again, zettabytes of data that are being captured all the time here. And thinking about that data, when we think about how organizations are looking to use that, customer journey optimization is a top priority here. You've got 42% of orgs that say that's a data priority, something they're looking to do with it. Now, despite that, a lot of people just aren't properly leveraging that. You've got roughly 70% of data that's literally never used in any capacity. You've got only about a fourth of organizations that call themselves truly data-driven. That's actually down. That's decreased from 2017 there. You had 36%. This is getting more complicated. It's a problem that's getting more and more difficult to address as we go on here for a whole suite of different reasons. And then I think most concerningly, you've got about 31% of orgs that say they lack the in-house skills to properly leverage their data. So that's actually a surprisingly big number. And this is what's at stake, right? For companies that are able to do this, they can significantly increase their profitability, 6x increase in likelihood on average, according to Forbes there. So I think the question, of course, is how do we actually get there? How do we start leveraging all this data we're capturing? What is the secret to taking that and actually making it actionable? Well, I'd like to create an analogy here. So basically, we are trying to take customers on this journey, and the data is really like the fuel. It's like the rocket fuel that you start with initially. But the rocket fuel in of itself isn't going to get your customers into space. It's not going to get them into orbit. Really, it's about the boosters, the engines, if you will, that you're employing that take that data and actually leverage it so you can do something with it, give your customers the boost, and get them into orbit. So, rocket booster number one, who, what, where? This is diving deep into your audience. Now, I'm talking here about going through the exercise of actually defining your prospective customer, their habits, their thoughts, their emotions. This is building out ICPs, detailed personas if you want to take it a step further. Going through and putting together the segments. This is going through and capturing not just demographic, firmographic data, going through the exercise of putting together the psychological piece of things. What are the motivators? What are their pain points? What are the things that they're kind of frustrated with right now? Because this helps kind of frame everything you do in all of the next steps in this process. If you don't know who you're talking to and what makes them tick, you're not going to be asking the right questions. You're not going to be making good use of your data. kind of going hand in hand with that, continuing to define the customer. Consider their past purchases. What have they actually interacted with in the past? Maybe you can see what they're doing in a logged-in state. You have conversations that are happening where you can see where they're spending the most time, what sorts of information they're interacting with, different places they're going to actually gather information. Even better if you can leverage something like an IP address account identifying tool to actually see where they're spending time on your website. There's all these indicators out there that kind of lead you to build out an idea of exactly who these customers are and what they're interested in. Rocket booster number 2, straight from mission control, just ask. I'm talking here about going directly to your customers to get the data. Who knows better than them? Now, this is a survey, this is conversations that your sales team can have. A lot of these things might have already happened, and a lot of the data might already be there, and it's something you can draw from. If it doesn't already exist, if this is a new segment, if there isn't a direct comparison, go out there and find it. Someone else has probably asked some of the same questions. They've probably done some of the same research already. You can even go out there and buy this information. I've certainly done that, and it can be worth it. But you're asking a lot of the same questions that you're asking you develop your ideal customer profile. Things like top needs, again, pain points, goals, decision-making factors, things that actually lead them to act, things that prevent them from acting. And of course, too, again, where they actually like to interact, the channels they like to interact with, etc. So rocket booster number 3, a lay of the customer experience galaxy. So this is looking at what the customer journey looks like today. And so if you're doing some sort of product launch, chances are that launch and the customer journey that you're looking to design has a lot of similarities to what you've done in the past. What does it look like historically? So actually map this out, kind of put together a visualization of all the different touch points along the way and figure it out. What's been most impactful? What's really not moved the needle as much? Are there perhaps multiple journeys or different paths that the customers have taken to get there? And if so, what can you kind of take away from that and determine you want to include or exclude in what you're building out this time around? And it's not even just looking at your journey. Again, kind of tying it back to the competitive piece of things. You want to go through the same exercise there. And a lot of the time, you can get that information from things like testimonials, reviews. You don't even need direct access to it. You can see it happening. And you can see your customers, preferably the customers you're looking to target for whatever campaign you're building out, talking about your customers' journeys. Bonus points if you can take that information, aggregate it, run it through an AI tool, and save yourself the time of having to go through these things manually. Make the process automatic. Rocket booster number 4. Less spaghetti, cleaner walls. What's worked and why? So in the same vein, just as you want to learn from the customer journeys that you've had in the past or your competitors' customer journeys, to take it a step beneath that, you also want to look at more of a tactical level. What's been effective? As far as the tactics, the messaging, funnel design, looking at things like, of course, the engagement you're getting from these activities, the capture of leads, actually capturing people's information, what's led them to take action. Of course, looking at things at the bottom of the funnel there too. And then I think you also want to examine the competitive side of things here too. So it's not just what's worked for you. There's probably people that have already gone out there and spent time and money to figure these and answer these exact same questions. So you can use, there's several different tools out there that'll get you to these answers. I mean, you have things like BrandWatch for the paid and social piece of things. You've got SpyFu for search traffic, SimilarWeb for web traffic. But all of these tools allow you to see all of the different things that your competition has already tried and what's worked. They'll give you the metrics on, again, things like which messaging, which language, which has already motivated your potential customers here to actually take action. Rocket booster number 5. Don't sell yourself short. This is pull strategy optimization. So as I'm sure you all know, your target audience is already looking for solutions like yours. They're already out there. They're already using all of these different search platforms that exist to find solutions to the problems that they have today. So this is about aligning content strategy to how they're looking right now. Now, of course, this is taking into account direct search activity, searches on Google, searches on Bing, and you want to bring this in early into the process because this isn't just about planning the search component of your campaign. It goes into just about everything that you do across all the different channels you're employing. You want to consider things like high volume, upward trending, low competition keywords. What seems to be a increasing area of opportunity that perhaps your competition isn't currently leveraging right now? And it's not just about the opportunities that are out there, it's about what you're already ranking for. Perhaps there's keywords out there that you are already commanding a presence for. Take a look at what pages you're linking out to there. Take a look at what your competition's ranking for as well, and any gaps that you see there. Again, where do opportunities lie, and where are there gaps in your keyword set perhaps that indicate there's something that your competition might be aware of that maybe you're not? And then you want to keep in mind, this isn't just about search engines either. I mean, more and more today, people are searching across all these different platforms. You've got searches happening on different social media platforms. I think YouTube right now is still the second largest search engine. And then, of course, there's generative AI, right? I mean, you want to optimize for what's actually popping up in the results that all of those generative models are putting out. Rocket booster number 6. Drop a penny, save a dime. This is smaller scale testing for better odds with bigger bets. So this is testing on a smaller scale, basically starting off with a small amount of money, a relatively small audience, with the intention of answering any unanswered questions that you haven't already answered in the several steps in this process. So, rocket boosters 1 through 5, I still have some outstanding questions. Maybe there's a couple things that I'm unsure about, or I have a couple different ideas that I want to test out to make sure that when I go out the door with the big launch, with the big campaign, I've already got my answers, and things are already optimized to whatever's going to be the best experience. I've got the real data behind it to prove it, and ideally you pick a channel you're going to use already as a part of this campaign, but if not, again, even just a small amount of budget just to get that statistically significant result and kind of answer the questions to go out with a bang. Rocket booster number 7. Get ahead of global changes and future-proof your data-driven approach. So this is really kind of the glue that puts everything else that I've talked about so far together. This is about optimizing the web experience, making sure you can best leverage your first-party data. But I'm talking about things like leveraging data enhancement tools. I think a couple presentations yesterday talked about this too, but basically you can use a tool like a LiveRamp, for example, a data onboarding tool to fill in the gaps for where your first-party data is potentially lacking. So, particularly on the B2B side, and if you were a primarily HCP-focused organization, there's a good chance that a lot of the data that you have is people's work-specific information. Now, if you're leveraging things like some form of Google ads, YouTube ads, some form of paid social advertisement, and you're trying to leverage your audiences, you can really maximize your reach by ensuring that you're marrying up the professional information you already have in first-party data to their personal information. Because a lot of the time, these advertising platforms only have people's personal information. So if you have someone's work email address, you may not be able to reach them via a YouTube ad or via a Facebook ad. That's really where these tools come into play. It's about maximizing the potential reach of your first-party data. Another thing I've heard a few people talk about over the past couple days, zero-party data, and I want to second that. And you can capture zero-party data a lot of the time by incorporating things like polls, like calculators, and existing experiences and interactions that you already have with your customers and as a part of your customer journey today. can incorporate those things into web experiences, and kind of like your checkout process. You can capture these kinds of things when you're doing things like webinars, events. There's all these kind of micro interactions that you have with people that serve as an opportunity to capture this. Now, I think serving as kind of the backbone of making sure that you're capturing the kind of data that you need to do this kind of preparatory process and optimization throughout your campaign. I think you also need a web tracking opt-in process that's optimized. Just thinking back, and at all the data privacy regulations that are coming into play globally. I mean, you've got, I think somebody mentioned yesterday, 10 different states across the US that have these now. You've got, of course, the entire European Union, but you've got Turkey, you've got Brazil, a growing number of countries, even internationally, that are making it as such that you have to ask people when they get to your website. I'm sure everyone's experienced the same thing, if they want to be tracked. And so I've seen drop-off rates of 90, 95% in some cases of the trackability of users coming to your website. So if you can optimize that process, if you can optimize just the layout and the proportion of people that are actually opting in to continue that tracking, you can continue to generate the data that allows you to do everything else I've talked about. So super important there too. And then finally, if you can leverage predictive analytics AI to simplify any of this process, to kind of automate the analysis of data and kind of the, putting together whatever the recommendations are. You've probably got a wealth of first-party data, and perhaps you've leveraged predictive analytics models already, but there's more tools than ever out there today to take this and properly leverage it. So, putting it all together. This is a second phase product launch. So kind of following the first. This actually generated 150 plus MQs. This is $1 million plus instrument. So a lot on the line here, about 200K investment. And deep dive data analysis kind of drove this whole thing. So pulling from the rocket boosters that I talked about before, started off by putting together an ICP. There's a couple different segments that we drew up there, really a couple different buckets. We looked at the customer journey in the first phase of this campaign, in addition to kind of across a few similar campaigns that we ran in the past. What seemed to work best? What elements do we pick and kind of incorporate in this campaign? We looked at the best performing channels, best performing tactics, messaging, creative, everything, kind of just taking it and all, kind of culminating and putting this together. And then finally, we looked at the search component, like I talked about before. What are we ranking for now? What is it that people are actually searching for, and how can we optimize to that and incorporate that in the entirety of the customer journey that we built out here? So, put together the Omni-Channel piece of it, if you will. And like I said, because we had two different segments there, we kind of drove people to a full customer journey we built out for each of these different segments. So we had kind of like a broader, deeper sequencing segment, and then we had those that were entirely new to high-throughput sequencing. And again, we used a lot of first-party data to do this, loaded it across a lot of these different channels, and again, drove them through a whole sequence of different pages with subsequent retargeting and more pages and follow-up and lead capture, ultimately leading to 50% increase, more MQLs generated there with actually about half the budget. So again, kind of just driving home the idea of taking all of this data, looking at the customer journey and kind of optimizing. I'd say mission accomplished here. So in summary, putting it all together. Again, you want to dive deep on your audience, define your customer, kind of set the scene for all the different data that you're looking to pull going forward. You want to get direct customer feedback, whether that's via a survey, whether that's via your sales team, or perhaps something that a competitor or a third party has already asked about. Again, you want to take a look at what's already working and what isn't working with your customer journey. Take a look at the channels, kind of go into the search side of things, not just for search engines, but also for all the different platforms that customers are searching on today. Go out there and do a small test to answer any outstanding questions you still have. And then again, future-proof, kind of putting it all together, this whole process, and make sure that you have all the different pieces in place to keep doing this moving forward. Yeah, and again, you get things like a 2.6x improvement in ROI if you're able to properly leverage all this data that you're pulling together already. So, the thought that I want to leave people here with is, it's actually a quote from Fei-Fei Lin, co-founder and CEO of World Labs. The paradigm shift of our thinking is that while a lot of people are paying attention to models, let's pay attention to data, because data will ultimately redefine how we think about these models. It's not just about, I guess, if we think about AI, if we think about, it's a focus across this conference, it's a focus across the marketing world in general today. We can't properly leverage tools like AI that take and provide answers to these questions if we aren't using the right data and asking the right questions around that data to guarantee the accuracy and, most importantly, the success of the outputs that we're getting from these tools. So with that, thank you very much. I'll open up to questions.
Wonderful. Fantastic talk, Evin. Really appreciate it. Yeah, a couple of questions.
Thank you so much for your talk. I appreciate the roadmap. I'm sure you saw me taking pictures of every single slide. But my question for you is, on one of your last slides, you had Google SEM, YouTube ad, ResearchGate emails, Facebook feed ads. I'm just kind of curious, how did you approach? Was that the same content across all of those channels, or did you make specific content for those specific channels, and what did that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the content wasn't the same across all channels, but it was similar, because we were assuming that because we're leveraging a fairly tight audience in a lot of cases, they're going to be seeing all of these different touch points. So we really wanted to drive home that it was the same campaign, relatively the same messaging, perhaps meeting them at different stages, but ultimately still around, again, the same messaging we designed for that audience.
Sorry to stand right before break, but I do have a question. Are you using any CDPs or any certain platforms or software to help commingle all of your data?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So yeah, actually, right now, in the process of implementing a new CDP, basically to feed data from a whole bunch of different sources and ultimately kind of serve as the brain behind taking these audiences, taking the signals that we're picking up real time from a bunch of different places, things like demand base, kind of capturing which accounts are visiting the website and updating our, kind of highest propensity list of accounts and automatically pushing that out, running it through LiveRamp and, having it go to all the different ad platforms we're leveraging. So, yes.
Wonderful. Any final questions, comments before break? No? All right, let's give Evin a round of applause. Thank you very much.